Hey, how y'all doing? Let's get on to our learning. Okay, dokie. Oops, I have to get this set up. Sorry about that. Yeah, I forgot about that. Let's clear the board. Set up the pawns first. That's what I found if you're going to set up a position. Set the pawns up for both sides, and then there's kind of a lot less chance that you're going to make a error, but with the pieces, you know, there's always that probability of error factor when you're setting those up. So don't feel bad about that. Okay, dokie. Let's do some pieces. Let's see here. Any knights? Yep, one knight move. Doing good so far. We're on record pace setting up, so that's good. That's good so far. That's good so far. Good. Oops, I forgot the black king. I knew I forgot one thing. There you go. And it's black to move, so we'll just do castles so we don't forget to as well. So we're not going to use it, but we got to always learn from our mistakes. Okay, just want to make sure I got this perfect. Good, 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 good. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, put it into a study. Hold on, let me get a sip of. Much better. Put that over here so I have it accessible. Okay. This is a game between. I can't pronounce this one gentleman's name. That this gentleman here versus Anon. Let me make sure I have this guy's name right. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, okay, got it. KASIMDZHANOV. Anon A-N-D. Okay, perfect. Comma. Let's see. Okay. It's a Sicilian position that may be quite unfamiliar to a devoted dragon or Nordhoff variation player. Once again, your task is to figure out what matters most. Before reading on, take several minutes to consider what should be important to each player and which factor takes precedence. So you don't have to do that right now. Like if you're watching this pre-recording and we get to this point right here, you can stop it here and then go over this like for a couple minutes, like what the author says or so, kind of try to figure out what both the ideas for both sides, what their plans are and how it works. But for right now, we're just going to dive into the plans and the ideas. But for you, if you want to maximize your learning, stop it and go over it will help you improve dramatically. Okay, done that, then let's consider the pluses for white. He has a queenside majority pawns. White. I think he means. Oh, queen. Yeah, queenside. Sorry, their castle on kingside. He's got a queenside majority pawns. We can also see he has a nice centralized queen. But the queen can be driven away by bishop to f6, which would be this move here. Bishop f6. Oops. Come on. Bishop f6. Or bishop c5. Excuse me. Whew. That was different sniffles there. Or by putting black's rook on d8 and pardon me. Wow. Or by putting black's rook on d8, one of the rooks, and a discovery attack along the d file, such as knight b4. So like if these are the ideas, and then the knight potentially could come there. So this is, and I'll put a circle on where the 2 points could be. That would be where you can drive away the queen with potential threats. Black's approach, that what matters most is his kingside majority, because it is immediately useful. He can play what was actually played in the game, f5. f5 exclam here. This is a vital, important move, because the idea behind black here is he's going to be the one that's going to be attacking the king. So his majority has, as I would like to say, a lot more teeth to it. It has a lot of teeth. What it's going to do, excuse me, it's going to be able to go after the king. See, if white breaks through on the queen side, what they're going to acquire is gain a material or a queen. If black breaks through, it's checkmate. So which the approach would be potentially e5 with a commanding center. See, what black wants to do is play e5 here, and then black will have a commanding central majority at this present moment. This makes the bishop, the G bishop. Let me see. Makes this bishop a. Oh, sorry. This makes the G bishop bad, though. So what would happen is this would kind of make the G bishop slightly bad, because with f5 to boot or to be played, it kind of makes the bishop slightly bad. But we're planning on not keeping it that way. And so this becomes clearer after this move. The queen actually plays a4. This is actually what's played in the game. But a line that could arise could be bishop f3, a8, rook a8, queen a4 like we did here, and then now pawn e5. which is an exclam move, and this is the what they were talking about. And e4 is coming, and this is actually a really strong move. Black's the one with the initiative at this point. So rook a8, and the idea is again to push this move here, get this pawn move put in play. Rook d1, so that he could meet e5 with the strong move bishop c. So what was actually played was f4 here, which is an exclam move. This is actually the best move. I just wanted to get that one played in. If e5 was played, which would be a slight mistake, because then bishop c4 exclam for white comes in, and it's not looking too wonderful for black. It's not bad. Black would just have to play bishop f5, f7, and still have a pretty commanding setter, but the problem is this pawn would fall, so it's actually really bad for him. So f4, black can advance his f pawn again, but that gives up control of e4. That e4 square that he just seized. So take a few minutes before you read and see if you can figure out what matters most. Time's up. What matters most is white's constricted position. The way to emphasize that is with f4. So how like back here, if you want to ask yourself what would be the best move after this, stop again and then go over it yourself and try to find. The best way to improve is to kind of explore the ideas for yourself. It severely limits white's bishop on c1, and thereby keeps the rook at a1 in the limbo without any spot to go. So the dark squared bishop is not good for white. If white retreats to the move that white actually played was knight e4, so this is the proper move. But if white retreated to f1 or even h1, these two moves here, f4, let me see, yeah, would have been an obvious, really stellar move for black at that point. But he went basically the most active square, which is knight e4, and so black played queen to e5 exclam. Was strong. Bishop d3 was actually not the best. What could happen is let me see, bishop d3. Oh, sorry, this is the best move. Bishop f3 was played, but if that wasn't played, if bishop d3 was actually played here, that would have been a mistake, really bad mistake. Knight takes c3 here. Exclam would be a really strong move. And would lose material. If b takes c, then bishop takes e4, and of course bishop can't take on e4 because of a back rank mate threat. So that actually loses a pawn for white. That's why, therefore, they played bishop f3. Bishop f3 doesn't block the rook. The bishop to d3 blocked the rook, which allowed a tactical motif of knight takes c3. Okay. There are several appropriate responses, but the best is b5. Pawn b5 exclam. Based on the idea of black actually played queen c2. You're thinking, whoa, hello, why not queen takes d5, right? b5, right? Yeah. That's a good question, but it's a mistake because it sets up for a attack along here to this queen, and so we would spring a huge attack with bishop takes e4. Or if this would actually be huge. This wins material because of takes here, and then knight takes c3 again with a tactical. This tactical idea here is really strong. Because if queen would take here, which would be a double question mark, blunder, I know you see what the idea is. Of course you do. Mate. So if rook takes on d8, which is a mistake, not a blunder, knight would take the bishop, and therefore you could actually exchange down, but you still would be lost at this point. So it's not worth a queen worth a rook. Nope, 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 nope. No, sir. Okay, that's why queen c. And then also there's one other move here. C takes d, a takes b is also a mistake too. Because knight takes b6, which attacks the queen. Queen c2. And then bishop takes e3. Bishop takes e3. And queen takes e3. And this is an exclam because, of course, you see that the blundering move of this here double question mark losing mate in 1 would actually happen. So that's why that's a really good move. First, there would be no way to prevent the loss of a queen or material loss. So queen c2. Black forces a favorable position with knight to f6. Knight f6 here is an exclam idea. Knight takes f6. Queen takes f6. It gets the queen off of the basically the e file. Oops, the e file, and allows for the potential e5 to e4 push, which would just basically disintegrate the king side for white, and black would have free reign of an attack at that point. Okay, queen b3. Rook takes d1 check. Bishop takes d1. It's forced. Actually, sorry, queen takes d1. Rook d8. Queen e2. And then bishop d3. Queen e1. and then e5. This culminates the strategy from the very beginning by f5. See the idea? We're going to go back really quick. Pawn f5 here. This is the whole idea, was to get this position. This was the idea. f5 was to get this position at the end, right here. f5 was. And now this is a winning position for black. Surprisingly, this is a winning position because of the space advantage that black has. And even if need be, you can get g4, g5 going in there, or g5, g4. Black's central pawns are choking white. He still can't activate his queenside, white can't. And if bishop d2, this is an idea. Actually, bishop e3 was what, or e2 was actually played. This is the main line. So the subline bishop d2 would lose to e4 here. Bishop takes e4 is actually surprising. You'd think, wait a second, isn't that a mistake? No, it's not a mistake, because bishop takes e4 is a mistake. You would think it wasn't a mistake, but it is, because bishop takes, queen takes, and then a whole piece just falls off the board. So that's why d2 can't be played, and that's why this that's why it's a mistake. d2 sets up for a really strong e4 attack. So e2 was played at this point. What am I missing here? Let's see, e5. e2. Oh, queen take. Oh, it's bishop takes e2. Queen takes e2. And now e4. Oh, there was a slight piece thing of implementation there wrong. It's okay. e4 exclam. Because the back rank is actually in jeopardy here. If the queen were to take, there would be a double question mark blunder, and black would have a back rank mate threat after the queen moves back, and then it takes, and that'd be mate. So that's why that move works. Let's see what the next move would be. Okay, I'm just going to put the next move in g3. And let's go over the idea that they did say this move, they did show this move. This is the last, one of the last strong tactical motifs of that would be a mate. So I had to put that in there for you. Okay. The attack ended the game soon after g3, then e3 exclam again. This is, we're just trying to just basically blast open the fortress. And this actually does. Boom, and then F3 exclam. It's like, wow, kaboom. You know, you're not even worried about taking back. You want to just totally attack the queen. Queen takes b5, f2. And there's really no way to stop king g2 and rook f8. Oops, sorry, not d8. Sorry, rook f8. Yeah, f8. And then now the pawn's going to be pushed right on through, with the idea of queening with checkmate. The reason, hold on, I gotta get a drink and then I'll read you this. The reason that examining games like this is valuable is that it increases your knowledge of different kinds of positions. The main reason that a modern player would be superior to, let's say, Spillman or Richard Reddy or any other of the great players of the early 20th century is that today we know how many is that today we know many more positions that Spillman already knew. We know that we know what counts most in these positions. This also provides one reason. There are others for why today masters are superior to today's amateurs. The masters know and understand more positions. Occasionally, an amateur will do well against a master because he gets into one of the positions he understands well. But masters will win the majority of the games from him because he'll be able to reach the middle game that amateurs don't know. So basically, what the author is trying to talk to us about is get familiar. If you have an opening that you like, get familiar with the middle game principles, the middle game plans, the middle game flow, the middle game ideas, and then you'll start to get a feel for when a position is good. So amateurs can beat masters if the amateur knows the position more than the master knows the position. But the majority of the time, like what the author just told us, is masters know more positions, and so they'll get into a position that an amateur doesn't know, and then they'll beat the amateur that way. So it comes down to how much knowledge do you come to the table with, and how much understanding of chess games are in other areas, papers, essays, and those type of situations that you can go down. Okay, this is we're going to go over another game with Now Short versus, and we'll just pull up one because it has all the moves out to this point. Now Short is white, and Topalov is oops. I should have spelled that right too up. $19.97. Okay. So I think we're going down more of a Sicilian line here. So I think the author likes Sicilians. Oops. this is kind of an interesting line. Topolov is playing a little interesting. D4, bishop D4. It's black to move. White wants to eliminate black's two bishop advantage and create king side chances. The bishop and king side, the bishops and the king side are among the most important factor to evaluate in the position. But what else matters? Once again, take several minutes to examine the diagram. So if you want to, at this present moment, my Chess Cruncher, Team Chess Cruncher, if you want to stop it here and then go over it if you're watching it on a pre-recording, and you want to figure out kind of what black's next plan's going to be, stop here and then evaluate it, and then turn me back on when it's time, when you feel like you've analyzed it enough. Or if you want to continue, then just keep it on and we'll keep rolling down on the ideas that we're going to look at. Okay, this is what it says. See if you can determine what the two players are aiming for. Where are the weaknesses? And specifically, how should black answer bishop d4 with a question mark? Is it worth preventing his bishop with e5? Is it worth making black's bishop bad? Is it worth black playing this move here? Is it? After all, he does it with gain of time, right? Is it worth? Let me see. After the time, or is the hole created by d5, the hole on d5, more significant for white? And what are the worthwhile alternations of alternate ideas? Does black really want? Does black really want a castle, or does he want to keep his king in the center? So you have the ideas. Is it beneficial? How does black mean it? Does black play e5, surrender the d5? Play e5 and surrender the d5 outpost for white's knight? Is black really going to castle in this position? I don't think so. So maybe black should consider something else, and black does. Black plays bishop e5, exclaim, really nice idea. If you were given this position, it deserves you have to consider the best move, and the best move is bishop e5. Let me get a drink here. Oops. Black knew from similar positions that the doubling of the pawns on the e file wasn't so important as the pawn control of d5. So if this is actually played by white, d2, but let's take a look at what our opponent's talking about. Is if e takes here, bishop takes e5, and then pawn takes d5, or d takes e5, queen takes, rook takes. The control of d5 is more important to black than the doubling of these pawns here. The doubling of these pawns. That was what's more important. The square d5. It wants to deprive white of outpost positions for his knight. Jeremy Silman talks about this also in his Reassess Your Chess 4th edition. It's an anti-knight type of position. You want to deprive the knight of as many squares as you can and make the knight bad. And so that's kind of the idea that that Black's implementing right now. So after the continuation of Queen D2, rather than taking, Black played Queen to F6. Exclam here. White doesn't release the pressure into an inferior endgame. Like this is potentially what White plays. Bishop takes here, of course. But if White tried to relieve the pressure with AD1, excuse me, bishop takes, bishop, queen takes, or if queen, see, bishop takes here, or if queen f4, queen takes f4, and then g takes f4. This is what Black actually would really like to have happen. This locks down any of White's counterplay for a kingside attack, and it also opens up a G file for Black to use later on for an attack on White's king. So who is really the one that's in threat here now? Surprisingly, White is. So E takes, D takes E5 is an exclam move here. Why isn't it? D takes E5. Note that White has no way to open the position further for his rook. Now the F3, F4 idea is ruled out. Moreover, he has no obvious targets to attack. When you can't challenge the pawn structure, when you can't change the pawn structure, make it favorable for you, so that many players can, like, if let's say that you, like, Black's favorable pawn structure is this, and this is what Black wants. If White's favorable pawn structure would be the pawn either over here, so that they can have somehow this pawn being gone, the E6 pawn being gone. That'd be favorable if this E6 pawn was gone. Then White would be able to jump their knight into D5 and play on that outpost. But because the pawn is still on E6, it's more favorable for Black, even though it's doubled. White can't get at Black's weakened E5 pawn, so at this present moment Black has a favorable pawn structure more than White. Okay, here's what that's what White should try. White should try, actually, let's see. Okay, White played A4 here, so A4 was a mistake by White. So this is what White should have tried, the author says. Queen D6, Rook D8, Queen C5. That would have promoted Black to find a way to get his king safer and connect the rook, such as after Queen G7, and then F6 could be played. He's also, the author's also saying Queen E, and then that could potentially come down the pike too. White chose White slipped into a worse position after this move. Black actually castled here, castle king-sided here, and then B3, rook f d8, and then queen e3. Then black played a really strong move, an exclam move Topalov did against Nile, or yeah, I guess Nile short. And queen takes, and then g takes, f4 exclam. Surprisingly, we would want to um, take via like that. That's what we would think. Let's just take via that to relieve. No, 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 no. We don't want to do that because then potentially white has the ability of playing e5 and then creating, and also that creates an outpost potential on f6 that could be played by black. This keeps with black's ideas of potentially king h7 and then bringing the rooks over to attack the king. So it's a safer idea. Let me see here. We get a drink and then we'll get going some more. Okie dokie. Quite a bit has changed, so it's time to reevaluate the position. What matters most now? Well, white has a queenside majority of pawns and he calls it a frisky knight, what a knight that could jump around and do some stuff. So a knight that can basically be acrobatic, but what he wants, there's ideas of knight a2 to knight b3, knight potentially d1, f2, and then knight into h3. There's a lot of ideas like that. So the knight can move around. So that's an idea. And black's pluses include the control of the d file, but that's temporary. He has a target on g2 that could potentially be under fire, and possibly pawn f3 could be exposed. And f5 is also playable for a breaking of the position open. So I will give you a second to figure this out, my chess friends. What do you think would be white's best continuation here? What would be white's best continuation? With all the ideas that we talked about, I'll give you a second to think about. I'll be right back. Okay, now that you had some time to look at it, if you said pawn rook f d1, you were right. Congrats. Then h4, rook takes d8, rook takes d8, and rook rook d1, excuse me, and then rook, to keep the rooks on the board, rook c8, exclam. The idea is the target of retreating the bishop back would be really strong. Black prevents his rook from going to g2. Yep. So rook d2, king f8, knight d1, king e7, knight f2, and then f5, exclam by Topalov. King f1, f takes e, f takes e, and then a5 is another exclam. This locks the pawns on the same color as black's bishop. King e2, bishop e8, exclam. Black's bishop can join the attack in several variations, such as basically the king played king d1, but if white were to play c4, bishop h5 check, king f1, rook d8, rook takes d8, king takes d8, and then knight d3, bishop d1. Or if instead king e1, rook d8, rook takes d8, king takes d8, knight d3, bishop g6. White prevents that with one move, king d1, bishop h5, king c1, bishop g8, knight d3, and then h3. The evaluation is white is actually lost here. Surprisingly, aside from examining the later opening position, which are easily found in books, magazines, database, or on the internet, there is a good method for enriching your sense of what matters. It's your own games. Unfortunately for your egos, it's usually your losses. Except for your egos, it's usually your losses that you have to go over. So we have to put aside our basically ego of that we lost and that this is bad, and we got to go over and find out what we missed and what our opponent saw, so that we can actually improve. So it's better to go over your own games to find out, because it's more personal to you. But you have to put aside that you lost. Look at it as if you were to like look at a Magnus Carlsen game that he lost to a player, we would think nothing of it, right? But if you, my friends, think of the game that you lost as kind of like a Grandmaster Games, one of those, and then you dive into it and try to find out the person who lost, or the grandmaster or player who lost, trust me, you would find more lines that would help you next time, and it wouldn't be that you felt it was your game. I guess that's a better way to help with you, my chess cruncher team, basically studying your losses, because it's hard to do that sometimes. I know. The reason is that by the time you've been playing tournament chess for several years, you've developed an appreciation of what matters in some positions. But you also are hemmed in by blind spots in other kinds of positions. The best way to find out what you don't understand is by examining positions you don't understand when you played them. What he's trying to say. I know that sounds like what we're gonna call it on right here, but I'll just give you a quick talk about, and then I got a log. Is this? Remember that the best way to learn is actually to take your own games, learn from my chess friends, and then find out where the position fell apart for the game for your game. And if you can do that, spot where you're weak, what areas you're blind in, and then improve, you will have a better understanding for chess, and it'll help you more than going over grandmaster games. I would say do both of them, but a game like what the author says is what means more to you is your own game, and you'll learn more from what you didn't see than what another grandmaster didn't see. So just some advice from your friend Chess Cruncher. Remember, one second, sorry about that. Remember though to always take what you know and be able to apply it, be willing to do something with it. And you know what? Like choices and studying, the choice to receive the Lord Jesus, Lord Savior, is of vital importance as well. We have to always, one day we have to decide what are we going to do with the Lord Jesus. Are we going to receive him or reject him? And I pray you receive him. Okay, and what we have to do is remember to treasure your victories, like what we just talked about. Learn from your losses, and that's also what we talked about. And remember that mistakes do not define you, which is an ego. It's how you handle the mistake. Do you learn from it and keep pushing forward? Okay, remember, you know what? Like the Team Chess Cruncher motto is we hang up our coats, we hang up our hats, we sit down and study when most won't. Team Chess Cruncher does. We study our games and Grandmaster games when most won't. And that makes all the difference. As Wesley So says, serve the Lord Jesus. As I say, God bless. And I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening. Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. Remember what Hannibal Smith said. It is true. Even inside of a random position, there's always a plan. And we are learning that. And you know what? We get to, when we see it and we're going, yay, we got to see it. We get to say, I love it when a plan comes together. Okay. Great job. Keep studying chess, having fun, honoring the Lord, and keep pushing play and learning the chess. 2 thumbs up. Go Team Chess Cruncher. Hoorah. Be blessed, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.